Welcome to the C-Suite Mentor, the place where you will learn the tools, strategies, and mindset to scale your business sustainably and build a lasting legacy. I'm your host, Theresa Cantley. As a fellow CEO, I understand what it takes to scale a business to 7 and multiple 8 figures. It's not necessarily what you might think. It requires a complete shift in how you think, strategize, and execute key actions in your business. My mission is to help CEOs step back into the driver's seat of their business by optimizing their operations, empowering their team, and staying in total alignment with their big vision. So, are you ready to exchange everything that hasn't worked for strategies that will? You're in the right place, so let's go. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Amuse Bouche Leadership Bites for you, brought to you by me, Theresa Cantley, the host of the C-Suite Mentor podcast, as well as the host of Amuse Bouche Leadership Bites, to help you to not only just be a better leader, but just really lead into this world better, connect with your team better, and just really build a business and a life that you absolutely love. So today we are talking about, and I am going to be doing some more with my cards. I think I did it the last time. I have some new things I'm going to be doing here on these Amuse Bouche to really help deliver the content better to you, and hopefully, let me move my microphone. Hopefully give you some really good insights to think about, some really good things to think about. Like I said, to help you to be a better leader, to be a great leader in a world where leadership is really lacking. I hate to say it. And I wanted to do this episode today. Coming off the new year, 2025 was very challenging for a lot of people. People that I've talked to, clients of mine, that I know their story anyway, and different things that they've had to navigate, whether it be the tariffs or challenges with team or just challenges in their business because of rising costs and just the way that the economy and the world really is right now. So I wanted to talk today about team. It's like team dynamic, and really how can you make team accountability really have everybody be a part of it, and really how do you get people to understand their role in making things happen in the business, their role in achieving goals. And I wanted to do this just because there is so much turmoil going on. I mean, we had so much turmoil last year, and starting the new year, it just continues to keep going. And the truth of the matter is, we are always going to have chaos in the world. It's never going to go away. I mean, sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. It's like the yin and the yang, and things always have to end up balancing out. But there's always going to be chaos. But the thing, and we don't have control over that. We don't have control over any of those external things. But what we do have control over is how we show up every day, not just not just how we are when we go into the office or when we go into our business, how we show up at home, how we show up with our friends, and just how we show up for ourselves. So I wanted to talk about this today because I think that, and what I have witnessed is that there's a lot of frustration. There's a lot of frustration in businesses, whether you have a big business or you have a small business, between the layoffs that happened and businesses not meeting revenue goals and businesses just not achieving the goals that they wanted to achieve. I mean, I was surprised some of the people that I've had conversations with that have multi-million-dollar businesses and how much they missed the mark last year, and how frustrated they are. I mean, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she said to me, I'm not sure. I mean, she has a small business. It's a Main Street business. And she said, I'm just not sure moving forward with what's going on with technology and what's going on in the world, if I can keep up with it. And I'm just not sure if I can keep up with all these these online big conglomerates like Amazon and whatnot. She's like, I just don't know if it's worth it anymore. And it makes me sad to think that, or to hear that, because small businesses, I believe this, are really the backbone of the economy and are what are going to continue to keep communities healthy, to keep innovation alive, and to just really keep, like, help to rebuild our economy. I truly, truly, truly believe that. And, in digging deeper with her, one of her main things was that she has had a really hard time getting people to buy into what she's doing. So, which is interesting because I've heard this multiple times. And I had a conversation with some other business leaders, um, in one of the businesses that I run. It's a restaurant. And we were just talking about that same thing, with the struggles that they've had with getting people to do, not just do a job, but do a job well, and having people to really care about what they're doing, and to having people to really understand what the business is doing beyond just the food that they're cooking, or the product that they're selling, or whatever it is that they're serving. And when I was listening, I'm kind of putting all of these things together. And when I was listening to this team of leaders, and they're talking about all of this, but then at the same time they're talking about all these goals that they have. And I stopped them all and I said, part of the problem is that we set all of these goals that we want to achieve, revenue goals and hard target goals for products that they want to put out, or new initiatives that they want to do, but then there's no alignment. There's no alignment with it. So they set these arbitrary goals, just like my friend was doing, just setting these goals, but then there's no alignment in how leadership is showing up, the belief that they have as to whether or not they can achieve these goals, just because of all of these external circumstances, and then how that then translates to the rest of the team. So you might be listening to this and thinking to yourself, holy moly, this sounds familiar. Because like I said, people, they go into a new year and they're like, here's what we did great, here's what we didn't do so great, here's what we want to do moving forward. We're going to add just a factor on to how much we're going to do in revenue, and we're going to launch all these new initiatives. We're just going to do all this new stuff, and everybody's just going to work on it, and all is going to be great. And then they fall short. And the reason is because there's no alignment. And I think this last year, that alignment between yourself and how you're showing up, these things, your desires, and then the actions that are being taken, has been broken. And I think it's because a lot of businesses and a lot of leaders have just been we need to just show up and survive. And I can't tell you how many times I heard that in the last quarter. Because with all of the adversity that had come everybody's way, especially Main Street businesses and small businesses, all of that adversity that came their way, it tends to wear at you. The struggles with team, the struggles with tariffs, the struggles with rising costs. It just starts to wear you down. And even if you get back up, it wears you down again. And then you get back up and then it wears you down again. And sometimes, and this is what I started to see, whether I was reading comments from people, on social media, or I was reading articles, or just having conversations with people, just finding out, hey, what are you struggling with the most? Like, how can I help? And I think it was to the point where so much stuff happened, and it was just getting harder and harder to get back up. And as a leader, it was asking yourself, am I really meant for this? Am I really meant to have this business? Is this worth it? Like, I'm not really sure what to do to get people to do the things that need to get done. And at the same time, we missed so many of our targets last year. Like, is it even worth it? They think, is it even worth it? And when you start to feel like that, guess what? That energy starts to seep out into your organization. So it makes it harder for people to get behind whatever it is that you're doing, or to understand what the real work is that needs to be done. So I wanted to talk about this today because what we want to do is we want to start to close the gap between us and our team with that vision, the strategy, and the execution, making sure that everything comes into alignment. Because I think, and I heard this on a workshop that I did on New Year's Day, that so many people, because of all of this adversity that's happened, okay, so many people have become indifferent in that. Why should I care? Why should I care about this person? This person doesn't get back to me. This person doesn't answer my calls. This person always takes everything personal. This person, whatever it is. And you hear a lot of that. And believe me, I've sat in meetings where I've listened, I've watched leaders and I've listened to them just complain about things that are happening with staff. And I have to stop it because that indifference, again, why should we care? Why should we do this for them? We're just going to shut it. We're just going to shut all this down and just get people to do their job. Just tell them to get back to work. And it's like, you can't do that, or like, that's not going to be beneficial. Right. And that indifference is what leads to not caring, is what leads to not growing, is what leads to getting into discouragement, despair, destruction, and so on and so forth. And that leads to not being able to get back up in the face of adversity. But here's the thing that I know to be true is that great businesses, great leaders, and greatness itself from within is not just something that just happens. It is something that's there, and it is something that is challenged and that is brought forth more and more and more. The more adversity that you face, the more challenges that you face, and how you get through them. So if you faced all this adversity in the last year, and you faced all these challenges, then I'm going to give you some things to think about, some questions I'm going to ask you, and I really want you to, if you're a journaler, journal on it or think about it as we're going through this. But I'm going to give you some things to think about so that you can start aligning your team to the things that really need to be done. And you can start to bring that greatness forward. And like I said, it is not a casual result that happens from something. It happens, it comes forward, it grows, it emerges, it gets defined in those moments when we think to ourselves, how the heck are we going to go through this? How are we going to recover from this? And we start putting one foot in front of the other to get to the other side and come out even better than we thought we ever possibly could. So we're going to talk about 6 things that you can do to really start to get your team aligned, to start to get them all in sync with each other. Because again, adversity starts to create friction if you don't focus on the solution and focus on the growth and focus on how can we use this to grow. If we don't focus on those things, we're not going to get through it, right? And this is why, as a business coach and business consultant, this is why I bring in the whole personal development into the business coaching that I do. Because if we're not growing as people and we're not learning new things and we're not, like, new things are emerging from within, we're not going to be able to do all of the external stuff, such as developing new products, innovating new products, moving our business forward, teaching people things, whatever it is, being a better executive chef, whatever it is. Okay. It always starts within. This is my build from within philosophy. So we're going to get started. So first one, your number one job, and I heard my mentor say this the other day, is to summon the best of who you are, to summon the best of who you are every single day, even on the days you don't feel like it. Now, I know we're all human, and sometimes it's like, believe me, I've had those days where I'm like, I cannot get myself up. But if your energy is off, even the slightest bit, if your energy is off, then your actions, it just follows. Your actions start to get off. And then what happens is, and you're not doing the things that you really need to do because you don't feel like it. But greatness requires you to do things even when you don't feel like it. So if your energy is off, your actions are going to be off. Your mindset's going to be off. You're going to look at things. You're going to look at situations and handle situations not in the best way, right? And then what happens is that vibe, and this is why culture in businesses is dynamic, because it shifts and changes. It's not something that's static, but when your vibe is off, it impacts the culture within your business or the culture within your team if you're leading a division. So your number one job is to summon the best of who you are every day, even in every moment. There are moments where I've had to have difficult conversations with toxic leaders. And I mean really toxic, micromanaging, really harmful leaders. And I've gone into those conversations saying to myself, summon the best of who you are. The outcome that is going to happen is going to be the best for the situation. And really always having that discipline to really tap into and generate that energy that needs to happen. Generate that energy. Now, I've done this for years, and I learned it from a mentor of mine. But I always have alarms set up on my phone. 3 words. How do you want to show up today? Bold, confident, alive. Those are my 3 words. And then an alarm goes off. So when I'm going into one of the businesses that I run, or I'm working with my team, or I'm going to a speaking engagement, those 3 alarms are going off to remind me how I want to show up so that I can not just say I want to be it, but I can actually be that person. All right. So, my question to you is, how can you elevate the experience in your business with your team by you being aware of your energy? Okay. By raising your own standards for how you want to show up in the business. All right. How can you elevate the experience that you're creating in the business for your team, for your customers? How can you elevate that by first raising your own standards and summoning your best self? That's question number 1. Because here's the thing, getting people to understand, getting people to do their job better, getting people to integrate the vision of the business into what they're doing, it doesn't start with them, it starts with you. And that's this whole thing is going to be about, it starts with you as the leader. All right. So, number 1, summon the best of who you are. Number 2 is, you probably have heard this before, but you got to communicate the vision. You got to communicate the vision. And it's not just about communicating and communicating your vision. It's also understanding what each person in your business, like if you have a small business, but if you have a bigger team, what each one of their vision is for what they're doing. So for the businesses that I run, I have leaders within each. And I asked them this in the 3rd quarter, and then I asked them it again about a week ago. What is your vision for what you want to accomplish in, and then gave them different increments. So it's a matter of communicating what your vision is. And it's not something that you set it and forget it and do it once. It's something that you have to do over and over and over again so that they consistently understand it and they can see, because your vision should align with how you're showing up, by the way. So if you're showing up as bold, confident, alive, and your vision is to create a business that makes people feel welcome, that makes people feel good when they enter the building, the two shall align, right? Because when you're generating that energy inside the business, it should align with whatever it is that you want to accomplish, or whatever that difference is that you're trying to make. Okay. So, really communicating, and I like to do it. Um, I have something written that I give all the leaders in the business, but then I also like to do it verbally. I like to consistently, when we're talking about different situations in the business, I personally like to talk about it verbally and consistently remind them this is the vision of the business. This also ties into something that I talk about a lot, which is your leadership pillars and how you want to lead in the business. Again, that align with who, that energy that you're generating, and who you want to be as a leader. All right. So you can look at it like the philosophy that you have. Those leadership pillars fit into that philosophy that you're creating, that is about the business, or that is about leadership, or that is about the products that you sell, and making sure that you're not building the business and running the business based on just surviving, but you're running it based on that philosophy that aligns with the vision. So my question to you is, all right, here's your question. How are you inspiring people to buy into that vision? How are you inspiring people? If you're not inspiring them already and you're not talking about it, ask yourself this question and write down some, just brain dump things that you can do to inspire people and get them to buy into that vision and that mission. It could be talking about how much of a difference this is going to make. For example, one of the programs that we have at the restaurant that I run is we have a whiskey society. And it's not about drinking with, I mean, yes, people like to drink whiskey, but it's more about educating people about the different Celtic cultures and why whiskey is different in each one of these places, and also introducing American whiskey, and just it's more about education. So when we talk about the vision for the program and we talk about the philosophy for it, it is not about the whiskey itself. It's about the education. It's about community. It's about bringing people together that love whiskey, that want to learn about whiskey, that love Celtic culture, and that helps us to get people to buy into the mission and the vision and the values behind that particular program, which also ties into how we get people to buy into the vision that we have for the business. My vision that I have for my business, and when I talk to my team, it's all about helping people to bring forward their own greatness that's found in their flaws, so that we can connect humanity together and more people can achieve their dreams. It is about building businesses from the inside out and saving Main Street. It's not about me just consulting with businesses and teaching them how to develop processes, or teaching them how to measure their KPIs, or teaching them how to build a marketing plan. Those are all the things, yes, that are part of it, but the greater part of it is helping people to achieve their dreams by connecting their humanity. That's the deeper vision that I have for my business. And I communicate that all the time to my team. So ask yourself, how can you inspire people in a deeper way? Number three, moving right along. Role alignment. And this is a big one. This is a really big one. So if you're doing 1 and 2, you're understanding what the greatness is that each one of your team members has, right? You're understanding what your own greatness is. And when we're generating the energy that aligns with what that greatness is, we're bringing that forward. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to start to explain each person's role. So what this requires is that you need to get clear on the role that each person has within your team or within your business, not their job responsibilities, but their role. Okay. As I use this as an example. In the restaurant that I run, it's not the thing that you do in the business, the one role is, yes, you wash dishes. However, your role is one of the most important positions in the business. And here's your role. Your role is to ensure that we have the highest level of sanitation in the business by making sure that dishes and pots and pans and things are clean and sanitary so that we can keep people healthy. Like, if you look at it that way and understand the roles that you have and aligning someone's greatness, someone's strengths with each one of those roles, okay, more like it lifts everyone. And when you can then take that role and talk to each team member about the role that they have and how their strengths align with that role, and the role is something that the business needs, what happens then is you can then get them to understand how their role plays into the bigger vision of the business and how their vision fits into the bigger vision of the business. All right. I heard this one time from Ed Milet. Business owners or leaders with big visions help people with big dreams because those dreams can fit into those big visions. So, my question to you is, how can you connect? How can you talk to your people about their role and connect the work that they're doing on a daily basis, how that makes a larger contribution and a larger impact to the greater vision of the business? All right. How can you do that in a way that makes them feel, and they know that the work that they're doing is essential to the success of the business? Every single person in the business. When I worked in the laboratory equipment company, when we used to hire receptionists, everybody used to be like, well, I'm just a receptionist. No, you're not just a receptionist. You're a gatekeeper. You are the first person back in the day. You are the first person that the customer talks to. So your role is to you are the first touch point to create that amazing experience so that somebody wants to buy from us time and time and time again. It's one of the ways that as a small company, as a smaller company, $100 million company, but we were able to compete with these bigger companies, right? So ask yourself, how can you explain people's roles in a way and their daily work, and how can you connect their daily work to the bigger mission and vision of the business, and how their work and their contribution on a daily basis, how important it is? So that's my question to you. Number four, moving right along. Routines and check-ins. It is not enough to just have a meeting one time per year. I remember asking a business leader, it was a new client that I was working with, and I said, how often do you have meetings with your team? Because they were explaining some of the breakdowns that were happening in their business. And I said, well, how often do you meet with your team? And they said, oh, once a year. We set goals once a year, and then that's it. I said, you don't meet any other time? And they said, no, just once a year. So people, we need to have some routines and check-ins. All right. Routines could be like check-ins. You could have one big meeting per month. All right. I would do meetings per month. All right. Where you have an hour long meeting. And then every week, maybe you have check-ins. Maybe you have just shorter check-in meetings. And this is something that I set with my own team where, okay, how did things go? Where are we? How did things go? Where are you stuck? How can we help? All right. Real simple so that everybody consistently feels supported. Again, they're being reminded of how important their contribution is. They're also being reminded that it's okay if you're stuck. People get stuck, but we're here to help. No man left behind, right? Um, and getting them to understand that it's okay to voice it too, because we're here to help, and letting them know that they can be supported. Some other routines could be, use of project management software. Now we're getting into the tactics, but use of project management software, whether it's Asana, Microsoft Project, Trello, Basecamp, I don't care, whatever you want to use, but having that in there, especially if you have a remote team, so that you're connecting everybody together. Everybody knows what's going on. All right. So they have a way to communicate with each other throughout the day should something happen. All right. But having those routines and check ins to make sure that people understand what it is that's expected and how can they get through a setback. If they're experiencing a challenge, letting them know, okay, you know what, we can get through this, let's find a solution. Okay, so what routines and check-ins are you going to set up if you don't have them already? What are you going to set up, and how often are you going to execute them? Okay, all right, number 5. That wasn't a huge question, but number 5, integrate and recalibrate. All right. This is important. This is all about integrating the wins, making sure that you're taking time to understand what the wins are. And it's not just a monetary win, we got through a project. It's not just that. It's finding out what matters most to people. All right. Somebody might say a big win for them was that they felt like they were part of the team. One of the businesses that I run is a retail store, a large retail store. And one of the big wins for the team was that after a toxic leader left earlier this year, one of the big wins for them was that it didn't feel like a hectic holiday season, as hectic as it normally does, and that everybody worked together. That was a huge win. It had nothing to do with the money. It had nothing to do with the amount of customers that came through the door. It had everything to do with how everybody came together in the face of adversity. So, integrating the wins, finding out what matters most, but then also taking time to recalibrate when things didn't go right, the misses or the missteps or the things that completely fell apart. Taking time to understand and let people know that it's okay if things don't go the way that you planned. And they normally won't, right? Getting them to understand that and getting them to understand, okay, now we need to do the next steps. We need to take the next steps to continue to move forward. So, my question to you is, who on your team, because maybe you have somebody who has been hard on themselves. In one of the managers' logs last week, one of the managers was really hard on herself because they had a bunch of people that called out and she was handling the floor, and she takes pride in making sure that customers have an amazing experience when they come into the restaurant. And she wasn't able to do that because they had all these people that called out. So she was very hard on herself because she felt like she wasn't showing up as the best. So who on your team, if you show up as your best, okay, who on your team can you help and inspire them to show up as their best, and to help them see that when they do that, they're going to make a big impact? So making sure that you're taking time, because I reached out to her and just said, listen, we appreciate you. You show up as your best all the time. Even when it feels like you're not, you are. Because the circumstances don't determine who you are and don't determine that value that you're bringing. It's how you're showing up in that moment. And in that moment, even though she felt like she wasn't delivering a great experience, she was phenomenal. She just couldn't see it because she felt like she wasn't performing at her best because of the circumstance. So who on your team can you help them to see their value, is what this comes down to. Who can you help to see their greatness? And the last thing is, I don't have a card for this, but the last thing, at least I don't think I do. No, I do. I have a card. Create space. Create space. And what this means is create space for magic, create space for creativity, create space for ideas, for new ideas to come in and new innovation to come in, and create space so that everybody can execute their things and have it be in alignment with who they are and the expectations that we have. making sure that you're creating space so that people can show up as their best selves. They're not walking into a culture that is micromanaging, that they feel like they can't share their ideas or they can't use their voice, and they can't be themselves. Creating a space and creating a culture where people aren't indifferent. They do care about each other. They do care about the business. They do care that what they do is going to improve the community. Because there's enough on the outside, external circumstances that come our way. There's enough to make people have self-doubt. There's enough to make people doubt, that anything's possible. There's enough to make people doubt, the economy, the country, the leadership, whatever it is. We don't, as leaders within our business, we don't want to be those people. So team alignment and getting everybody to be accountable for their own role starts with you and how you show up. If you're not showing up and holding yourself accountable to generate your best self, to generate the energy to summon the best of who you are, if you're not holding yourself accountable for that, and then aligning what you need to do and taking responsibility for getting certain things done, or for having those routines, having those check-ins, understanding and aligning roles with people's strengths, communicating the vision. If you're not doing all of that, you can't expect your people to do it either. Culture is caught, not taught. So next time you're thinking to yourself, how do I get people, people aren't doing, we're not getting this stuff done fast enough, or it's not getting done right. And how am I going to get them to do this? Ask yourself, what are you doing to hold yourself accountable and take responsibility? All right. Thank you for joining me for today's Amuse Bouche. I look forward to seeing you back here next week. I think we have some special guests coming up and some new things. I might be playing Vanna White in one of the episodes, but stay tuned, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. And remember, your job number one to get people to buy in is to summon the best of who you are every day. Hey there. Thank you so much for listening. If you found value on this show, please follow the podcast so you never, ever miss an episode. And I would love, love, love if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for me. Even better, share the show with a fellow business owner ready to step fully into their CEO leadership role. Because right now, more than ever, the world really needs next level leaders. And by the way, did you know you can text me all your questions and get real-time feedback? You absolutely can. Just text the word CEO to me at 610-215-2838 to get connected. One last goodie for you before I go. If you're ready to scale your business and have a co-creator working right by your side, my C-Suite Mentor Program may be perfect for you and your possible new second in command. Just visit thecsuitementor.com to get started.